watching this soon. Just see how much of my face is it taking?
Your entire face.
No, but like how much of the entire like screen? I guess.
Oh,
is like 80.
Full half, or like 50%. And right now, maybe 40%. Oh my god.
What?
I'm logging onto Twitch because I want to rewrite the typing sentences.
You know,
it's based off your history, so.
No, it's not. It is not. Oh my god.
No. So someone told me about like this one lady that like does that does content, okay? And so you have like my entire screen, but her name is also similar to. Wait, what did you say? Did you say anything?
No.
Okay, but it's similar to someone else's name who's like a national master. So I think I trying to search up the national master, and then I got her, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And so like my whole feed was chess, whatever.
I saw that.
Go afterwards, like it was so gross.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good.
Here for the lecture and.
Yeah. It's our first time here.
Oh, right. Okay, well, welcome. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're gonna get started around like 5:15.
Okay. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Are you guys also playing in the tournament tonight?
Yeah, they signed up for today.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we can do it. Set it to that. What was his name? Alexander?
Yeah.
Oh, I was so bummed. I actually think I would have gone to buy, but I wanted to play, but it said everybody signed up for like week 4. I was like, oh, I guess no one's playing today.
Well, originally I thought I was going to play you, but then, yeah, I found out you weren't coming, and I was like, should I even go? But I got my friend to go, so I was like, okay, I can't make him go and then not go.
Well, no, the problem is when you signed up, it said week 4. So I thought I was going to play you too, but then I was like, oh, he's just coming for week 4.
I don't even know that I...
Alexander Bemben.
The 1900s. No, it was the issue on like King registration where it was saying that everybody was only coming for the last week.
Yeah, it was some weird thing on King's registration where it's but then someone was able to sneak through and just sign up for the first week. So I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's
Well, I don't
fixed.
even think I registered until I got here in person or something.
Yeah.
That by the time you registered, it would have taken me like 45 minutes to get here, so it would have been like almost 7.
But you can pretty much assume that I'm coming always.
Wow. Okay.
Like, I'm here, unless I have to like be somewhere outside of Chicago, I'm pretty much always here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I am playing today, so yeah.
Well, we might play each other. Are you playing the Open?
Yeah.
Nice.
I think Philip signed up. He still probably hasn't lost any, which is crazy to me.
Which one is he again?
It's like 1,700. Short. I have a picture. I'm not
Oh, I think I might know who you're talking about. I might have played him once.
Yes. I think it was a girl. Well,
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
yeah. So he's coming as well.
Okay, cool.
Today, this is up to your discretion, but because there were 3 players who signed up for the open section for the first week, and I took a bye, you played Alex. I would have gotten a bye anyway because they were both higher rated than me. I would have gotten a bye.
Yeah, you would have gone by.
So can you, instead of putting me a half point, I just want to make sure I don't get the bye in the next 3 weeks.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
Automatically, it should also, I feel like it tries to avoid giving people buys who already requested a half point buy, but in a small tournament, it might not do that.
starting soon, so in like 2 minutes.
Did you see Max?
No. Yeah.
Oh, he's cute.
I don't know why he's not. He's very polite.
He is.
The dog.
Yeah. He's just so big. It's just like.
I mean, German Shepherds are going to be like massive. He's skinny. He's a skinny dog.
Really? Every time. What? Okay. No, but sometimes when he runs up to me and he's really excited, just because he's so big and whatever, I always get like hit against the wall because he's just big. I'm not.
Do you want me to just write you as Sam Tugendhaft?
Did I ever call you Sammy?
Growing up, I was Sandy. It wasn't until I went to college that I started going by Sandy. But I was a Sandy growing up.
Do you want to hear something diabolical, Zinnia? So my friend was playing a racket game and this guy like got his queen trapped. Okay? Now this is mean. This is very mean. But the guy who got his queen trapped started like just being mean. Like, you know, just trash talking in his chat, whatever. And so my friend would start giving take backs or start asking for take backs and just put the same move. I don't like being whatever, but the diabolical thing is that, yeah, after a while, there's a lot. I'll tell you also. But after
for some reason it's not showing.
press play. Press play.
I don't know what is doing this.
Oh, one person's watching though.
Yeah,
Oh, it is working though.
I know. Don't worry about it. Don't do it right here.
Wait, what?
All right. Ready to start?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Let me I just want to.
Wait, you don't want to
For some reason, the screen is not showing.
Oh, wait. Wait,
Let
can
me
I see
just
it?
make sure it's.
I wanna put test. You might have a thing where. No, that's weird, huh?
I'll just look and see if it's streaming on my phone.
Gather around.
Yeah, and just guys, we're gonna be live streaming this, so okay, well, it's working on my phone, so we're good to go. Okay, guys, well, thanks for coming for the lecture. Just so you know, this is a 5-time Monday Open winning champion, Sam Tugendhaft. And today he's going to be analyzing his game with his opponent from last week. And his name was Alexander Bemben. They're both rated around 1900, 1920, 25, 26.
Yeah, so I think he was like 1900, and after that game, I think I should be close to 1980 or so at this point. So very close to getting back to being USCF expert, which if you don't know is if you're rated over 2000. So maybe by the end of this tournament, I can get there. Yes, my name's Sam. I'm gonna go through my game from last week. So in the future, hopefully I can analyze one of the other players' games from the tournament. So I really highly encourage you all to, submit your games, even if you don't think they're the best quality. There's always something that can be learned from any chess game. And so, yeah. Oh, and I just want to say, please ask any questions about any lines you don't understand or just conceptual questions. Feel free to interrupt me at any time.
How do you analyze your own game? What do you do? Because I saw you don't use the chess search engine, so you just analyze them by yourself, or how you gonna do it?
So my games, I analyze by myself first. Then I have a chess coach who also looks over my games, so I talk to him. And then also I will go through the engine. So I don't have the engine analysis loaded up here. But that should always be how you analyze your own games. You should try to get your thoughts about what you were thinking during the game. And that could be a whole separate lecture I do at another point in time, is really what is the technique of analyzing games, because that's really how you get better, is analyzing your own games. I think there's really no better way to get better at chess than making a concentrated effort to analyze your games, and that goes beyond just looking at what the engine said, because once you see the engine and the engine tells you that something is the correct move, it's much easier to justify that in your head and say, okay, that makes perfect sense because blah, 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 than it is to come up with that move yourself and get through the practice of going through the logic that would get you to that move, right? You always want to simulate what it's like in a game, and in the game, of course, we don't have the engine in front of us, and so it's important to get your human thoughts down, what lines you saw, and then once you've done that, you can start playing around with the moves without the engine, because of course it's a lot easier to spot good ideas when you don't have to calculate X moves ahead and you can see the board right in front of you. Right? So those are some general tips for doing analysis, and I'll talk about some of the thoughts that I had during this game where they weren't correct and why they weren't correct, and we'll get to that. And through talking to my coach, through looking at an engine, that's how I know that they're not correct. Okay, yeah. So we'll get to the game. So we had a King's Indian attack, or not attack, a King's Indian. So this is the King's Indian. At the top level, it's very rare to see the King's Indian in anything really but blitz, maybe rapid. But you hardly ever see it in classical formats anymore because it's just not a super principled opening. Black is giving up white this entire center, right? White controls the center. Black will try to undermine the center and use the pawn break. So white will have a ton of space, but with great space comes great responsibility. Okay, so if white can keep things under control, then white will be better. But black has a lot of ways to spin things out of control, and that's going to be the balance of the game. Okay. So these are sort of the normal developing moves. Black goes for this bit of a sideline with knight b7. Right, the normal main line is e5 immediately. But they can transpose depending on the ways that you play, so it's not that abnormal that he plays knight b7. Castles e5, and now the main line is to go for this pawn structure. It's one that I don't particularly like to play. It's just a matter of taste, but things get very, very sharp. Once you lock down the center, in general, you're much more willing to weaken your king when the center is closed, right? When the center is closed, it's very hard for pieces to activate and to punish a weak king. It's much easier to attack. And so because white in this position will have locked down the center, black will be much more willing to go for the normal breaks, which include playing f5 and then eventually f4, g5, h5. Ooh. No, we don't want that. And so these attacks where black just throws their kingside pawns at white, this is the Mar del Plata attack. And it's one of the most thematic ideas in the King's Indian. Right? So for as long as I can, I'm trying to avoid going into those structures. Not because it's objectively best. Objectively, it is best to play d5. But it is just a lot sharper and it's not my style. So I'm trying to just be solid, not claim as big of an advantage, but one that is a lot more stable. So he plays queen e7. So now there's more pressure on this e4 pawn, right? We have his queen and knight both hitting the pawn. I only have my one knight. So he is currently threatening to take on d4 and then take on e4. So I spent quite a bit of time here trying to think what is the best way to guard this e4 pawn. And I was trying to remember a line which was similar. And so instead of playing knight b7, if he had gone for e5 immediately, there is this line that I was trying to reference in my head, where again, black does the same thing. They're trying to put the pressure on e4 with the queen and the knight. And white can actually just ignore it. So takes, and white gets this check, which actually creates a pretty nasty fork. And the only way to save the knight is to self-pin. Right, self-pin. And now the only way to guard is with the queen. But with this knight g5, black is losing material. Either the knight will come to e4 and add another attacker, or I'll take twice and then fork the king and the rook on e7. Okay, but it doesn't quite work in the game continuation because he has this extra defender of the knight over here. Okay, so that's one of the benefits of having the knight on b7 as opposed to in that other line where the knight is on e6. Right? There's extra defense of that f6 square. I had thought about queen c2, and actually there is this pretty nice. I thought, okay, this has one defender, but then he can just increase the pressure on e4. But actually now is the perfect time for me to close down the center. So this was the pawn structure that I was trying to avoid, right? But now that the rook is actually on e8 as opposed to f8, his ability to get f5 in is a little bit hampered. And it's very common to get, if white can get this structure where they're able to get the bishop out first, then knight d2, then they can get f3, and everything is beautiful. And so even if they're able to get f5, f4 in, I can always tuck the bishop back to f2. All my pieces are nicely developed, and he really won't be able to get anything going on the king side that quickly. And so thematically, the idea in this pawn structure is because white has space on the queen side, that's where white will want to play, right? They'll want to get play on the queen side, and black will want to get play on the king side, and it becomes a race. And it's a very common idea in a lot of different closed structures that each side will maybe play on different wings of the board, and it's about who can generate play faster. And black would basically not be able to generate play nearly as fast as white. Like white on the queen side will be able to expand with a3, b4, c5, and be able to create a lot of weaknesses, playing knight b5, knight c4. White will be able to create a lot of play on the queen side, and black won't be able to create any play on the king side. So I shouldn't have been so dogmatic about avoiding this closed structure, right? So I play knight d2, defending the pawn, Black goes for c6. And here I do actually decide to go for d5. And the point being that, like I was saying before, Black doesn't want to open up, he doesn't want to expand on the queen side when the position can get in the center can get opened up. So d5 where c6 is included, if he tries to expand on the king side, then I can open up the center at my pleasure. Unless he closes down the center. But this gives me, that extra tempo gives me a bit of time to help prepare for the king side expansion. So now that the center is closed, completely locked, basically all of the play will be happening on the king side. And so I know that Black's only idea really in this position is to eventually break with f5. And so I'm preparing, I played f3, preparing g4, right? So it looks a bit funny, like moving the pawns in front of your king this way, that I would play g4. It looks like it's weakening to your king. And normally you don't want to push the pawns in front of your king so much. But because the center is so locked, I can always just tuck my king over to h1, and actually my king will be fairly safe, right? But this is a little bit inaccurate on my part. I should just play g4 immediately, right? There's no downside to me playing g4 immediately. He can't challenge it with h5 because actually I could just take. My queen and bishop are both staring at this pawn. It just looks a bit weird. Like normally you never play g4 without playing f3 first. But even during the game actually, I was thinking I'm a little bit concerned with playing f3 because he has this nice response knight h5. So by playing f3, I block my bishop from staring at this knight. And he gets into actually a really nice square. So if I play g4 now, kicking the knight away, first of all, by playing knight h5, he's gotten out of the way from the f-pawn, so he's prepared for f5. And if I play g4, kicking the knight, he sinks his teeth into f4. This is a super strong knight. I do not want to take this knight because, for one, my bishop was my good bishop. Okay, all my pawns are on light squares, and so the bishop that's opposite the color of your pawn structure is your stronger bishop, right? Because it's not blocked in by your own pawn. So my light square bishop is my bad bishop. So that's one thing. I would be giving up my good bishop. I would be creating this amazing square for this knight. I mean, that's why you play knight b7 is either to jump to c5 or hopefully to jump to e5. Like this is perfectly central square. I can never kick this knight away. Like I can never play f4 really. And so this knight would be just such a beast that I can never remove. And then the third thing that would be bad about this is now this bishop's scope is opened, right? So the king's Indian bishop, the king's Indian bishop, when you play all the way back, when you play e5, right now this bishop is locked behind the pawn. It has a lot of potential energy, but until that pawn goes away, in fact, it's oftentimes the case that Black will even trade off his fianchetto bishop for my bishop, right? Because like his pawn structure is all on dark squares. So in a sense, actually, this is Black's bad bishop. But if we go back to where we were, sorry, it was in this line. Once this diagonal opens up, this bishop becomes Black's best piece. This bishop stares along the long diagonal, has amazing scope. This would just not be good for me. And Black, on top of all of that, would still be ready for f5 next. Okay, so Black didn't seize the opportunity to go for knight h5. I think if Black goes knight h5, then it's pretty much Black is equalized. So instead he goes for king h8. He's trying to make the square for knight g8 to prepare f5, and at the same time get his king over to the h file for when the position starts opening up on the king side. So this one wastes the tempo, right? He could prepare f5 one move faster just by playing knight h5 immediately, and to yeah, it also he could just play even knight e8. So king h8 was maybe a little bit inaccurate. I finally get my g4 move in. Knight g8, preparing f5. Bishop d3. So again, this is prophylaxis. So prophylaxis is the idea that you want to take the sting out of your opponent's moves. You want to be prepared for the moves that they make. Knight h6. So again, this is all revolving around this f5 square. He's trying to prepare f5. His knight is another defender of the square, but it's not a stable defender. My bishop does observe h6, and so I can remove this defender, which is something that I had in mind. So I felt like I was prepared for f5, and I didn't take it seriously enough, and I just started to bring my pieces over to the king side. Like I was saying, all the action is going to be happening on the king side, and eventually I wanted to be able to prepare for expanding on the king side. Right? So this knight doesn't really do much anymore on the queen side. It's time to reroute to the king side. He goes for f5 anyway, which I didn't fully expect because of a miscalculation. I got a bit lucky here that the miscalculation wasn't so fatal. But takes. So I remove the defender. Takes. And takes. So I've won a pawn, which is nice. This bishop is very solid and stable. Black will have a really hard time attacking my king if he doesn't find something very concrete, which he does. He stacks the exchange, which I had seen, and he gives this check. And so what I had missed here is actually, in my mind, the bishop was still on g7. I forgot that when I took on h6, that this bishop would have moved. And so that's a common calculation mistake, is still seeing the piece in your head where it is on the board as to where it is in the line. And so, in effect, by sacrificing the exchange on f5, Black has given up a rook, but they fork my king and my knight, so they get two pieces for it. They get two pieces, but earlier I won a pawn, and in fact, why I'm lucky in this game, the only reason why I am not worse is that there's no way for Black to stop me from getting this pawn. So I do get this nice e4 square. I'm going to win this pawn on d6. And if we do a material count, I'll just go 2 moves ahead. If we do a material count here, I have a rook and 2 pawns versus Black has 2 pieces. Now, if you count the material there, it's 7 versus 6. But really, Black has the bishop pair. And so the bishop pair counts for an extra pawn, basically. So it's really 7 versus 7. And so dynamically, the material is basically equal. And in an ideal world for Black, if they could get all of their pieces out to like good squares, like if they could get this bishop somewhere like to h5, they could get this rook to f8, if they could get this knight to f6, then Black would be doing great here, actually, and I would be worse. But it is very difficult for Black to achieve all of that. And what White has is that White actually has very good harmony of its pieces. My rooks will be on nice files with a lot of influence. This knight is a beast. Okay, it's on d6. It has a ton of control of key squares. you'll see it'll be very annoying for black to deal with this knight on d6. And even though my pawn structure looks funny, like double isolated pawns are often considered to be very bad. Because I have my rooks behind them, they'll actually be pretty valuable. Like the double pawns I can use as a pawn break. And this is a passed pawn. Even though it is doubled and isolated, it is passed. And it'll be a headache for black. Like black will either have to spend a lot of energy trying to surround this pawn. Otherwise, it's only 3 steps away from queening. So, in effect, actually, black has to walk a bit of a tightrope to maintain equality here. Okay. Now let's skip that line. So he brings his king to f6, just trying to get his king active, surround this pawn. Still look at how much difficulty. None of these pieces are developed. And it's going to be difficult actually to develop them because white has a ton of space. Okay, especially this light squared bishop. This light squared bishop finds a lot of difficulty because all of my pawns are on light squares. Okay. I get my rooks to central files where they have influence. Right. This rook, even though there's a lot on the e file now, especially once the bishop's on d4, looks very solid, but it makes it very annoying for black because this e pawn is effectively pinned, right? Like if the rook can enter into the position, it becomes a lot more difficult for black. Okay, so he attacks the b2 pawn, but really the action on b2 isn't super important. Most of the action is really happening in the center, and so really, actually, I should have been even less concerned than I was in the game on defending b2. So I even let black take now with the faulty reasoning that I would just win back the material like this. But that would be trading off my really strong knight for his really bad bishop on c8. I was very concerned that he had the bishop pair, but actually that bishop is just not good. And so, yeah, it's lucky that he played b6, seeing this idea that the b7 pawn was weak. Okay, so during the game, I went for knight e8, trying to reroute my knight. He can't take the pawn because then I would get these 2 very powerful pass pawns. 2 connected pass pawns is worth at least a piece, if not more. So he doesn't take. He attacks my knight. This was actually the one moment that I could have really won material. Again, if he takes here, it would be very dangerous for him because he just gets checkmated effectively. But during the game, I couldn't quite make this work because of king e7, and I wasn't really sure what white should go for here. But actually, sacrificing this pawn is just very strong. Because again, I get my connected pass pawns. And so if black doesn't take it, then I can start going for these knight g5 ideas. Or take first and then knight g5. And this pawn is basically just promoting. Okay? King b6, f7. He can't even take the knight, because then I have rook takes d4, deflecting the knight, and I promote. Okay, so with the knight on d6, I mean, the reason why it is so powerful is because it is very centralized and deep in black's camp. And so it has the ability to play on both sides of the board.
And I was too focused on black's queen side, and I really should have been focused on actually getting to the king side to support this pawn push. But okay, I go knight e8, king f7, knight c7, attacking the rook. And b2, now that my knight doesn't have this knight e4 idea, I was a little worried about black taking on b2. So I defend the pawn, and he's developed. So black is starting to unwind. It's getting to the point that I need to start finding something a little bit more concrete. Right? If I give black maybe 3-4 moves in a row, then black will untangle, and I'll just be worse. Okay, but I can start activating my rook, and I think black underestimated this idea. This rook starts to get very active. My rook can't go to g1, but I can start going rook e2, rook g2. Both my rooks are getting in the game. And still, black's bishop is bad for the moment. I mean, it's indirectly staring at my king. But right now, this strong pawn chain is keeping it out of the game. So rook f3, I think, was a really nice move. It's this idea of rover, rook up and over. It's a very common idea to activate the rook this way, specifically lifting it to the third rank, and then where it can move laterally and find a lot more activity than it can just on the first rank. Now he goes rook g8, trying to get his rook to the only open file, which I wasn't able to do. Like, ideally here I would be able to play rook g1, but his bishop covers that key square, right? So he gets his rook to the only open file, but actually without his rook on b8 anymore, this bishop is now undefended, and he starts running into issues with it, because immediately I'm threatening a fork. Right? Okay, so he steps his king out of the fork. But now I play rook h3, and how is he defending this h7 pawn? It's not so clear, actually. If my rook gets to the 7th rank, then that's almost always where rooks belong. But now he plays the very natural move rook g7, which is a blunder. And it's an understandable blunder, because I was posing questions to my opponent, and that's often what you'll find in games is you keep creating threats. The more your opponent has to think about, the more that they'll miss. And I found a very nice move, knight d6. It threatens both the bishop and a fork on e8. Okay. And there's just nothing black can do about it. He's going to lose the exchange. He decides, basically black has two options. He can go bishop e6, where it's pretty much out of the game, like maybe he can get b5. My opponent decides to go for bishop a8, keeping the bishop in line with the king. It's kind of the best of two bad scenarios. No, sorry. I just go for knight e8 immediately, and I won the exchange. And so now, not only am I up material, like I think I'm up 3 points of material, or 4 points of material, something like that. So this should be a technically one endgame. I have 2 rooks versus 3 pieces is already usually better, but with how bad this bishop is, and with all these extra pawns that I have in the center, it's just a matter of converting at this point. And I play rook e2, and black is basically in Zugzwang. Like, black doesn't want to. So just for anyone who doesn't know, this idea of Zugzwang is one where your opponent's kind of stuck. They don't really have any good productive moves that they can make. Black king doesn't want to step up, because then I can take on h7. The bishop has nowhere good it can really go, right? It's always stuck outside my pawn chain. And I did it specifically with the idea that this knight actually, even though it would like to go to f6, it's kind of stuck guarding this e5 pawn. And so he played knight f6, and he was going for a last-ditch effort where if I take the pawn, then he can at least sacrifice. And this would be checkmate if I didn't have rook g2, by the way. So I had to be very careful. Always be on the lookout for your opponent's ideas. So when I played rook e2 earlier, I did that with this idea in mind that I would have rook g2 to cover any mates. And black had entered this endgame where I'm just up in exchange. It's maybe black's best chance to, you know, keep the game going even though it's still winning for white. So I didn't want to allow that, and I found a nice way to just cleanly finish the game. Rook takes e5. So I give back material to straighten out my structure. And this is another idea with double pawns, is that they aren't necessarily always going to be doubled. You can use them to your advantage to undouble. And so now with 3 connected passed pawns, I mean, these are going to queen. There's just no doubt about it. Either queen or just straight up checkmate black, basically. And so now it doesn't, without the dark square bishop on the board anymore, it doesn't make sense for black to sacrifice the knight, because now I have access to this g1 square for the king. Right? And now I would be up 2 connected pawns plus an exchange. That would be an easy conversion. Black goes for knight d7. And I'm able to just push through my pawn. Knight rook g8 with tempo on the bishop. So rook g8, he saves the bishop, bishop e7. And I don't just queen. This is a common mistake people will make in blitz. But it's better to remove the defender of the queen square than it is just to win the piece. Okay, so he gives up material. And at this point, my opponent resigns. Because I'm just going to scoop up all the pawns, probably promote this pawn, if not, just win all of his other pawns and win. So if I go back to the key position from this game, which happens right here, 96. There are dynamic and static advantages in chess, right? Static advantages are advantages from your position that will exist for the very long term. Dynamic advantages are ones that only last for the very short term. And so the dynamic advantages that I have in this position is that I'm much better developed than black. My pieces have better harmony. And black has some static advantages as well. He has the bishop pair. On a purely material basis, I would probably prefer to be black. I have these quote-unquote weak, isolated pawns. So it's about making use of these dynamic advantages, right? I make use of the fact that I have, dynamically this knight is very strong, while black is undeveloped, and it's on a good square. And these rooks are on good central files. And so that was really the difference in this game, is that on a static basis, probably the position is closer to equal than anything, but I was able to make a lot of difficult decisions for black because of all these dynamic decisions, right? I'm not waiting for black to untangle all of their pieces. I'm immediately trying to open up the center, play dynamically with f4.
Excuse me, what does it mean your pieces were in better harmony with each other?
Yeah, so this knight is blocking in his bishop. His bishop is blocking in his rook. His king is taking away one of the good squares from his knight. He has his pawn on e5, which he always has to sort of babysit. It's a very weak pawn, and one that actually he maybe even should just sacrifice, just for the sake of not ever allowing me to undouble these pawns. I forget if it's exactly this position or not where black should do this, but I do remember the engine suggesting that black has pitched this pawn for the sake of maintaining white's static weaknesses, in fact.
So why didn't you just take the white bishop, or the black bishop now on the white square?
Why didn't I just take the dark square bishop?
No, the light square bishop.
Yeah, so why didn't I take, and in fact I was considering it during the game, but if anything, actually, his dark square bishop, because all my his light square bishop, because all my pawns are on white squares, that's actually his bad bishop. His dark square bishop is the bad, is his, like, beast of a bishop. That's by far his best piece. And so when I played knight b5, I mean, I did it with a few ideas. I did it with this knight d6 threat. I did it with this idea of possibly taking on a7. I also did it with the idea of possibly taking on d4. So I prefer to take his dark square bishop over his light square bishop. But I don't want to take on d4 because then he gets rid of... So if I go one move further, if I take on d4, yes, if he takes this way, then I do get my rook into the game. But he gets rid of this weakness on e5, and I have to worry about a very annoying protected pass pawn on d4. And if I don't take the dark squared bishop, but if I take the light squared bishop, one, that helps his rook, right? Now his rook can just freely enter the game. Two, my knight on d6 was my best piece. I shouldn't give up my best piece for black's worst piece. And so even though the bishop pair is really valuable, you have to take it in context, right? So it's also like a very common mistake at an intermediate level to get hyperfixated on the bishop pair and things like that. But the bishop pair isn't felt until the bishops are actually developed. And so while it's a static advantage for black that he has the bishop pair, it's actually a dynamic weakness how locked in this bishop is, right? If he had a million tempo or tempi, he can redevelop the bishop something like this, right? But it's just not realistic that black is going to be able to get this many tempi, and by the time he does all that, I'll have already promoted one of my pawns. And so whenever you make a trade in chess, you should always be thinking about, am I gaining something from this? And there are two good ways to do that. The first is to analyze the strength of the pieces that you're trading, and the other is to just judge and evaluate the position itself at the end of the trade. So in this case, I was doing it on the basis of I have a monster knight. This is a bad bishop. I should not be trading my monster knight for his bad bishop.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Any other questions? We're almost up at 6 o'clock, and
How are you going to evaluate the position after exchanging the pieces?
sorry, what?
What are the steps to evaluate position after exchanging the pieces?
So it's not anything different than just general chess evaluation. So whenever you calculate, you need to always think however many moves ahead, and at a certain point you need to stop, look at the position, and your intuition should be able to guide you to say, I have all these little advantages, they have these advantages, and come to a conclusion that white's winning, white's better, white is slightly better, we're equal, or vice versa for black, right? So you have to be able, and you can also think in terms of an engine evaluation. I think this position is plus 0.7, plus 1.5, etc. So, like for example, when I got to this position in my mind's eye from a few moves beforehand, I didn't have to calculate any further than here. I could just look at this position and evaluate and say, this has to be winning for me because I know that my rook will be able to export these pawns to promotion, right? That's an evaluation. And so when you make a trade, oftentimes you can make trades that on the surface look confusing because it looks like you're giving up a good piece for a bad piece. But if it comes in such a way that the resulting final position, it's clear that you can evaluate the position statically and say that I must be better, then it can make sense to go for that trade. So I can't pull it up right now, but I'm remembering a very particular game from the 1972 World Championship match between Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky, and Fischer famously gave up his bishop for a knight, and it was one where if you looked at just the quality of the bishop versus the quality of the knight, it looked like the bishop was better than the knight, and so it seems crazy that you would give up the bishop to this knight. But actually, if you really looked at the resulting position after the trade, it was just a better position for Fischer, and he was able to win that game. And so you should always be evaluating checks, captures, threats. That's like the classic saying. So you should always be evaluating the captures and seeing if the resulting position is better for you. But you shouldn't just be making trades for no reason. But yeah, great question. Any other questions?
Nice, good.
Thank you. Yeah. I am a bit lucky that I had, that back, where's Queen G5? Back in this position, I had a moment where my heart sunk to my stomach. I was like, oh my God, how can I be so stupid? I just wondered. But, that never happens. Take a deep breath, reassess the position, and okay, I sort of blitzed out these moves just because they're basically forced. But once I got to this position, I took my time. I thought, I reassessed what I knew about the position. Just recollect yourself. These games are 90 plus 30. You have a lot of time in your clock. Use your time. You're not gonna get extra points for winning with an hour on your clock at the end. So just take some time, collect yourself, emotionally recenter yourself, and then just go back to finding the best moves. And that's really all you can do. So I think from this position on, I made some slight inaccuracies, but I'm pretty happy with the way that I played it, and always kept the pressure on black. And so, yeah, a little bit of luck, but overall I'm pretty satisfied with this game. All right, well, good luck everyone in your game for round 2. And I just want to say one more time, I highly recommend you guys submit your games for next week.
Okay, thanks. Okay, to anyone who hasn't checked in with me, can you just come over here and check for me? It's right there. It's down the hall, out the doors, down the hall to the left.
As you might expect, Crazy House White has Vengeance as like plus 2.5, plus 3 in the opening position.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess that's interesting. It's just like all about how insulated can you keep it. Like that's like if there's any space around it, right? Mm-hmm. That's just a big problem.
So, king safety and initiative are the most important factors. Material is a very distant third.
Yeah, yeah. Makes sense.
You'll see a lot. Someone will go all in, sacrificing everything,
right.
And then at the end, either they'll succeed and mate, or all of their pieces are gone, and they just do the devastating counter.
Right. Interesting.
I started playing piano, so they knocked that out.
Oh, nice.
My wife looks at me like, what you can't be doing? And I'm like,
Yeah, I like my drop variants, Crazy House, but not as bad.
Yeah.
I used to play my kid. My whole family played that. And then I just understood. Yeah, I just started playing piano. Just relaxing.
How did your round one go?
Well, that was the lecture game actually.
Oh, that was good. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Tough.
It's fine. When I landed Queen G5, but then after that, it slowly got outplayed.
Yep. I only caught the end, but that played a very interesting game.
Yeah, sorry to put the game.
Oh, no, totally. It's interesting.
We drew once, right?
Yeah, we played once.
Yeah.
I
I do think it's a draw though. I don't remember the game.
It was the one that I sacked a pawn, but I got a really good knight. Wasn't that our game?
What was the opening?
I don't remember how it started.
Yeah.
Sorry to bother you guys. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I got you.
Thank you.
Actually, so I can teach you. So, the setting for like amount of time with increment is 14. So that's right. So you just hit like correct,
And then you just reset.
and then you so you plus and then
No, I'm being
so
serious.
it's 130.
Wait.
1. Once you do that, then it becomes the bonus or increment, right? So set that to 30.
I'm also watching this crash course.
There. So now that that's set, just so like if you have a preset thing, it's already the right amount of time. You don't have to like go through and like click a million times. You can just hit the middle button and it'll like.
It'll always be mode 14 then. It'll always be the 90.
Not mode 14. If it's set up initially, it'll always be.
Yeah. So like whatever the preset is for that, like whatever you call that, like option for that number option. Like you don't have to reset the amount of time, right? Like you can it'll automatically be that value until you like reset it to something else.
Okay.
And you can just hit that like middle. It's faster than like
Yeah.
right like
Thank you.
yeah.
I hate learning to set these clocks.
I have the same one at home, so
Nice.
it's like the classic. Although like the high level, they have like the even fancier DGT, like the red ones.
Yeah.
Except who can afford that? I don't even know what else do they do anything that's like that.
I think there's like a couple display changes for like if you're doing like 40 moves or something, like a secondary time control. Because like the annoying thing about these is if you have the secondary time control, it doesn't like add the time right away. You have to like wait for it to play.
You just see it
and
0,
then auto
0, 0,
adds.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like a couple minor things like that.
Well, that must be terrifying.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's good.
What was your name again?
Alex.
Alex. Philip.
Nice to meet you.
What drink is that? So, like,
Decaf mocha.
okay, decaf. I was gonna say.
Yeah. I'm not. I'm not risking that this time.
Because I have done that for like these many times, just because I'm like exhausted after
Yeah.
work. But then it's just such a mistake. It's not.
I
worth it.
figure it's just like coffee placebo effect, and then
Son, I was so ready for a rematch, and then we weren't there.
Oh wait, an hour and 30.
Yeah. Yeah, you're stuck with me for the next 3 hours or whatever.
If I even take that one.
Well, keep your game interesting. 'Cause I'll be
All right.
dancing.
I'll do this. I'll do this if he plays E5, and I'll do this. Is that interesting enough?
I think that'll be a shortish game.
I don't think.
I mean,
wayward-
I
don't
hope he
think-
plays
I don't
this.
think the wayward attack is that bad. I think it's pretty solid.
If you, if you play like C3,
Like-
only if you play C3 in those lines.
Like, white's not going to be better, but I don't really think white's worse.
This is weird. Being live.
Oh yeah.
I'm just not so sure. I mean, I think I'm fine.
I mean, if you want to turn it off, you can.
I don't know. It's okay. Plus, I don't know if I'll ever get this chance again. How do you spell your last name? Actually, I should ask you to spell it. That's fine. I think the last time I was bored one was when I was like 800 and there was a random 1400. I But he's thinking, oh, I'm the highest rated player in my section. And then he just showed up. And now he's decimated.
You've improved by like 100 plus points since you played.
I don't remember. What was my rating? I thought I was 14 maybe? 1400 something? Now I'm 1556.
Yeah.
I just can't
I
wait
think
to
you're like 1440-ish, maybe.
Maybe. I just want to be 1600 so it doesn't like...
You're not
Weird.
on the list with...
Yeah, that little red mark.
I'm so close to 2,000, I can taste it.
I'm just like a... Yeah, good luck for that.
The last classical game I drew, and my opponent afterwards won like 50 or 100 points in like the next like 6 games. I'm like, why couldn't I have gotten some of
Okay, guys,
this?
welcome to round 2.